Hello. So, do you worry about what other people think? If you do, well, that's okay because so do most people. In fact, some of the nicest people you know probably are preoccupied a lot with what others think about them because they tend to be people that please or like to please others. And it's kind of something that they grew up with where they learned that in order to get appreciation, to get approval, that they needed to do or say certain things in order to please other people. So it's a conditioned behavior, and most of us have it. It just comes with growing up, having parents, having adult figures that are trying to teach you to be a good little boy or girl. So, what does this mean though? A lot of us think that we know what other people think, and that's what we get concerned about. So if I'm concerned that if I do a certain thing or if I say a certain thing, then somebody else may not like it. They may have a negative opinion of what I do, or they may react adversely to something that I say or do. That's me worrying about what that person thinks. But is that really what's going on? Let's peel back the layer a little bit. Now, when we worry about what somebody else thinks, what's going on? Do I know what that person thinks? No. I mean, I can't read people's minds. Now, the best I can do is maybe read their reactions, read a response, read, if they roll their eyes or whatever. But that would typically happen after it is that I do what I am going to do or that I think I'm going to say. But in advance, how can I know how that person is going to react? How can I know what that person would be thinking about what I'm going to do? I really don't. And in fact, probably a lot of the time I'm misjudging what other people think. And even more so than that, it isn't really what other people think that I am reacting to. It's actually my own judgment of myself. So when I say, oh, I don't want to do this or I don't want to say that because so-and-so might blah, blah, blah. Really what I'm doing is I am projecting what I think I might do or how I think I might react if I were in that person's shoes. Or because I've seen their attitude and the way that they respond to things or have responded to things in the past, I create a judgment of that person and how that person may react to me. And then I project that judgment onto them as them judging me. It gets a little bit confusing or convoluted, but follow me here. It's our own judgments of ourself, really, that causes us to be concerned about what somebody else thinks of us. Because if I didn't judge myself at all, if I didn't have any concern about myself, my self-worth, my value to society, my maybe worrying about my whatever, I wouldn't worry about what other people thought. I would just be comfortable to say or do whatever I want knowing that whatever that other person thinks or says, or however that person reacts to me, is not my problem and doesn't really change who I am. It doesn't affect me. It doesn't diminish me. And that's really what it comes down to. Even if it's your boss, let's say that you have a boss who has responded to you in ways in the past, and so you're concerned about saying something or doing something in your work environment, or responding to your boss in a certain way when they ask you to do something that you're not comfortable doing in your workplace, or because you don't feel like you have the skill set to accomplish it. And you just know, or at least you think you know, how that boss is going to respond to you if you go and approach him or her with whatever it is that you want to say. Even though you may have some history with that person and you have ideas about how that person may respond or react to you, any of the things that we're looking at and concerned about in the future is really our own judgment of ourselves. It's our judgment of ourselves that we're projecting on somebody else. Because moment to moment, we don't really know the future. It's only what we feel, what we feel about ourselves, and then how we end up reacting to our own judgment of ourselves and putting that on somebody else. Now, the reason I say that is because this could be somebody that you don't even know. Let's say that we put the boss thing aside, because your boss, you may have a relationship with that person or have had a relationship with him or her for weeks or months or years. And so you probably have a pretty good idea of how that person's going to respond to certain things. But what if this is somebody who's a stranger? You have no idea who this person is. You don't know what kind of background they have, what kind of upbringing they had. You just met them, or maybe you didn't even meet them. Maybe you didn't meet this person or this group of people, but you're concerned about doing something. Let's say you're in a city square and there's all these strangers around you. And you just think, well, what if I just yelled at the top of my lungs right here so that everybody around me could hear me? So I sounded like Tarzan. And of course, the first gut reaction is, well, what would people think of me? Who cares? They don't know you. What difference does it make? But it's that concern. It's that self-judgment. It's that, well, if I were them, I would think I'm a raging lunatic for doing XYZ. If I were to stand here and yell like Tarzan, the other people around me might think that I'm some kind of homeless, crazy person. Or maybe I'm just got released from a mental institution, and here I am yelling at the top of my lungs in the city because nobody does that. But there again, so what? It's a self-judgment, a self-criticism. So it isn't really what they think of you that you're concerned about so much. It's really what you think of yourself. It's, if I were those people, I would think I was a crazy person if I saw me yelling like Tarzan in the middle of the city. So I sure as hell don't want to do it, because they're going to think the same thing that I'm thinking right now about me. So there's that layer pulled back to expose what's really going on. It isn't us worried about what they think, what that person thinks and that person thinks. No, it's our concern about our own judgment of ourselves. It's our concern based on our own judgment of ourselves, I should say. I'm judging myself because this is what I would think if I were somebody else looking at me. But just because I would think that of me does not mean that other people would think the exact same thing or would have any feeling about it whatsoever. They might. I mean, there are social norms and there are things that we have been brought up with to believe that certain things are okay and certain things aren't. But realize that, say in a city square, there could be people from other countries, other cultures, other family, totally different family environments than you were brought up in. And they may view things totally differently than you. And so the reaction would be totally different than the reaction that you might have to the same stimulus in that kind of environment. Somebody might go, oh, cool, let's join them. Others might say, wow, that person has guts to be able to do that and here in the middle of the city. Some might just ignore them and go, whatever, just another nut in the city. But it's unlikely that anybody would judge you or me. Let's say it was me out there. Anybody would judge me for yelling like Tarzan in the middle of a city square the way I judge myself. And I tend to judge myself harder than I think anybody else judges me. And each of us is that way. We tend to be our own worst self-critic. So, next time you're worried about what other people think of you, really take a hard look at yourself and ask yourself, is it really those people's thoughts that I'm concerned about? Or is it what I think of myself? Is it what I'm judging about myself? Is it that I won't allow myself to do something because of some conditioning that I was brought up with that holds me in a place that doesn't allow me to fully be who I want to be right now in this moment? So yeah, let go of judging yourself. Let go of the self-criticism. And just go yell like Tarzan in the middle of the city square.